Diep moves through hill fruits like she's keeping a heartbeat steady. Eyes on the cold unit log while customers shuffle baskets past her. Nai sits on a stool with crayons and a stuffed orange, drawing big fruit boxes and stamping one word.
You put the safe stamp
safe.
Yes.
Luan jokes, Mister. Hung inspects, and Diep keeps everything clean on
Temperature lock
purpose.
is good.
Because normal day is a promise in this family,
Yes,
not
Mr.
luck.
Hung.
And today, a quiet change is waiting at home. James's father is working without control, then asking to learn. One small request,
Like this?
one hidden
this?
slip of paper
Yes,
right
that's
at the edge. Stay with me. So Diep keeps moving. Diep wipes the counter, checks the seal on the cold unit door, then writes the temperature in that neat little box like it's part of her breathing. Nai doesn't look up from her stool. Nai presses a crayon down hard and draws a fruit box with a giant sticker. Then Nai lifts the page and says, "Safe," like she's making an announcement to the whole shop. Luan hears it and grins. She's our compliance department, Luan says. But Luan doesn't make it
She's our
silly.
compliance department.
Luan straightens a stack of baskets as he talks, because everyone knows Diep means it. Diep smiles at
She's our
Noi and
compliance
says,
department.
"She's our conscience." And right there, you feel the house rules this family lives by. Keep it clean, keep it clear, keep it kind. That's when Mr. Hung walks in. Mr. Hung doesn't greet the room with big energy. Mr. Hung just looks. Mr. Hung's eyes track the labels on the shelves. The checklist taped near the sink. The dates written in ink that doesn't smear. Diep doesn't rush to impress him. Diep just keeps working the way she always works. Mr. Hung stops at the posted checklist and nods once. "Clean," Mr. Hung says. Diep answers like it's the simplest truth on earth. Clean means peaceful. And here's the little payoff. Mr. Hung doesn't add pressure. Mr. Hung doesn't hunt for flaws. Mr. Hung taps the log with one finger, approving the habit,
Here's your package.
not
all
just
ready
the
to
number.
go. Thank you for shopping
Then
with us
Mr.
today.
Hung turns to leave, and the shop keeps humming, safe and
Clean
steady,
means peaceful.
because Diep built it that way. Diep
Clean
packs a
means
small
peaceful.
delivery box, corners squared, tape
Clean means
smooth.
peaceful.
Nai watches like a tiny inspector. For a moment, nothing feels threatened at all. Just
Give up the good
earned. James steps into his company building with the same quiet discipline Diep uses at the shop. James greets the receptionist, nods to security, and walks straight to the morning operations meeting with a notebook tucked under his arm. The team starts fast. Rollout dates, shipment windows, vendor delays. People talk in big, confident sentences, the kind that sound good but don't prove anything. James doesn't get sharp. James just asks, "Show me the numbers." And when someone says, "We should be fine," James answers,
She's our compliance department.
"Fine isn't a plan." The room
She's not
shifts.
exciting.
Laptops
She's our
open.
compliance department.
Proof appears. The meeting stays clean. Then a marketing lead slides in a topic like it's harmless. Public-facing content. The marketing lead says. A story angle. Family brand. You can almost hear that word brand trying to grab at private life. James doesn't argue. James doesn't embarrass anyone. James looks at the
She's our
agenda,
conscience.
taps the page once and says, calm and final, we're not selling a story. We're delivering a product. That's it. No speech, no drama, just a boundary. And here's the payoff. Everybody accepts it. The room moves on because James has said it before and meant it every time. Around lunchtime, James calls Diep like he always does. Diep answers with one hand still dusty from the shop. How's the day? James asks.
Just a little more.
Diep glances at Noam, who is stamping pretend paperwork with a crayon. Happy, Diep says. Busy, but smooth.
Clean.
James exhales like his chest finally unclenches. Good, James
Clean.
says.
Aye.
Mine's full,
Clean
but
means
clean.
peaceful.
Diep smiles into the phone. Well, that's what I like to hear. They don't talk long, because work waits on both sides, but that check-in works like a lock on the door. James hangs up steadier. Diep hangs up steadier.
Looks good.
And the afternoon keeps going.
Keep working.
After closing, Diep takes Nai home and walks straight to the chicken coop, because cold weather turns small problems serious. Diep checks the straw and the water. Me the dog circles the fence like a guard on duty. James's father is there, not standing back like an authority, but working. James's father places straw inside, then fixes a loose plank so it stops
up now.
wobbling. Nai runs
Morning,
up
Mr.
and
King.
says,
Good morning.
Good
Grandpa,
morning.
you're doing construction. James's father answers, I'm preventing accidents.
James, good. You're here. We're discussing the rollout
Nai
dates now.
nods.
Right, what's the latest on
Approved.
vendor delays? All right, let's start with rollout
Diep
dates.
laughs,
Shipment windows
and the
look
laugh
good, but we have a
loosens
vendor
something
delay
in
update.
Diep's
Yes, there's
chest.
been a slight issue.
They work in
with
easy
XYZ.
silence
Projected
until
growth
James's
metrics show a
father
clear
clears
upward
his
trend.
throat.
I'm not seeing the correlation.
James's
But go
father
on.
keeps his
We're
eyes on the
confident new
coop when he
strategy will bridge
asks,
the gap. Our
Can you
projections
show me
clearly
again how
indicate
you
a
write those
substantial margin.
logs?
Yes, the data supports aggressive scaling.
Diep blinks.
Precisely, we're ready for the next phase.
The temperature log? James's father nods. The inventory sheets too. I don't want mistakes to come from this side. So Diep brings everyone into the kitchen. Diep lays the forms on the table.
It'll be fine.
Clean, clear,
Mine isn't a plan.
unambiguous.
Find the anomaly.
James's mother stirs the pot and pretends not to listen. But James's mother's face softens
Mine isn't a
anyway.
plan.
Nai
Numbers
climbs
align
onto a
perfectly,
chair and
quantifying
says,
the delays we
I can
anticipated.
teach.
I agree. The windows are
Diep
confirmed.
smiles.
Yes, we have a clean structure.
You can
the delays
watch.
are quantified. Windows confirmed.
James's father
Numbers
takes the
align.
That's
pen
correct. We have the
and
proof right
writes
here.
his
Yeah.
first line slowly,
Final check on the tablet.
then circles the temperature range like Diep shows him.
Public-facing content.
James's father
A
releases
story
a
angle.
breath like relief.
Family brand.
When James comes home,
Public-facing content.
James freezes at the sight of his father
story
at the
angle.
table.
Mhm.
Diep says,
Family brand.
We're making it easier. James's father adds, I
We're not selling a
asked.
story.
James's face
We're delivering a
softens.
product.
But later, when the house goes quiet,
We're not selling a
Diep
story.
notices James's father's jacket on the chair again, and a folded slip
then we
of
agree on the
paper
new terms.
tucked deep in the
Understood.
pocket,
Yes.
still
No
hiding.
resistance? Excellent.
Diep
Back to
knows
operations.
the calm is real,
Agreed.
Agreed.
Understood.
and the trouble is still here. That night, Diep doesn't make a scene.
Oh,
Diep waits until the dishes are done. Nai is asleep, and James's
day?
mother has gone quiet by the stove.
good to
Then
hear.
Diep walks to the chair, lifts
Same here.
James's father's jacket,
Happy.
and
busy,
feels that
but
folded
smooth.
slip of paper in the pocket. Diep brings it to James first. James
Happy,
reads it once,
Busy, but smooth.
then again slower. The paper isn't a love note. It's an official notice. Dates, a reference number, language that feels cold even before you understand it. Something from the past.
Okay.
Something that can turn into questions, inspections, and rumors if it lands in the wrong hands. James's father steps into the doorway like he already knows. James's father doesn't try to snatch it back. James's father just says, "Rough. I was going to handle it." James keeps his voice low. "Handle it how, father?" James asks. Not
What is he looking
angry,
at?
just
I think
careful.
there's a chicken stuck over there.
Oh, I see.
James's
Good
father
dog.
swallows.
Grandpa,
Alone,
you're doing
James's father admits.
Yes, that is correct, Niep.
And that's the turn. Because it's not the paper that scares Diep.
Yes, Nee.
It's the old
Look, You're
pattern.
doing construction.
Secrets,
preventing accidents.
control, chaos disguised as protection. Diep pulls the log binder from the shelf
I'm preventing
and sets it on the table with a quiet
A
thud.
bow.
Diep opens to the date line and points. "This is how we handle things now." Diep says, "Hi, Siu, clear dates, clear
Can you show me
numbers,
again how you write those logs?
no
Yes, you do it
fog."
like this.
So easy.
And then you check the feeder.
James's father looks at the forms like they're a foreign language and a lifeline at the same time. "Huck, if they question me," James's father starts. James answers, "Then we show the truth. We don't guess. We don't beg." So they go through the notice together. James reads the official words.
Like this?
Diep marks what needs proof. James's father writes a clean timeline in his own hand.
I'm circling it.
And for the first time, the paper doesn't own the room.
it easier.
The family does.
I asked.
In the morning, the air in the house feels tight. Like everyone is trying not to bump the bruise.
easier.
James
I
leaves
asked.
early for the office, but James doesn't leave the problem behind. James calls a lawyer he trusts and asks for a simple thing.
Oh, it's Dad's jacket.
What this notice really means,
Look at the
and what
pocket.
proof shuts
Is
it
that a
down.
note?
Diep stays home with James's mother and James's father, and you can see how hard this is for James's father. James's father keeps finding little chores, sweeping a corner that's already clean, straightening shoes that are already straight, anything to avoid saying the one sentence that matters. Diep doesn't chase him. Diep makes tea. Diep sets the log binder on the table where it belongs. Nai wakes up and pads in sleepy, stuffed orange tucked under her arm. Nai looks at the grown-up faces and whispers, "Is it a loud day?" Diep kneels and smooths Nai's hair. No, Diep says. It's a calm day. That's when James's father finally breaks. James's father sits down like a man lowering himself into honesty. James's father looks at the dateline,
This
then
is how
at
we handle
Diep,
things now.
and his
Clear
eyes
dates,
don't have
clear
their
numbers,
usual
no
sharpness.
fog.
I didn't know how to say I was scared,
This is how
James's
we handle
father
things now.
says.
Clear dates,
So I
clear
hid it,
numbers,
and
no
hiding
fog.
always turns into control. James's mother's hand pauses over the kettle.
me,
James's mother doesn't interrupt. Diep doesn't interrupt either. James's father continues, voice rough. I thought if I fixed it alone, nobody would blame you,
We don't beg.
but I made it worse by not telling you.
We don't guess.
Diep nods
We
once.
don't.
Thank you for saying it.
Index the dates?
Diep replies,
timeline now.
simple
It's over.
and steady.
Yes. The timeline is
And
complete.
here's the deepest payoff.
As per section 4,
James's father reaches for the pen
Dates
himself.
indexed and confirmed.
James's father writes a clean statement.
Cứ bình tĩnh một chút
Dates.
để xem xét.
Facts.
Nó không tốt, anh ta rời đi.
No drama.
Để tôi nói chuyện với con.
Then
The
James's
bindery's open,
father
we need to
pushes the
discuss
paper
this.
toward
I won't hear
Diep
it.
and says,
But we must face
barely
it.
above a
No.
whisper,
I have to go.
tell me if it's
I need to know
clear.
what this notice really means. and what
Diep
proof shuts
reads it
down.
and says, It's clear.
Yes, that's
Oh,
what I needed.
and
I
James's
need to know what
father
this notice
breathes
really means.
like
The clause they're
someone
citing has a
finally
loophole if
put
we can
down
prove
a
intent.
heavy
We can prove
load.
intent.
Yep.
And what
By
proof
late
shuts it down?
afternoon,
Email timestamps and
James
project
comes
logs.
home with the kind of calm you only get when the facts are on your side. James sets his work bag down, takes off his jacket, and gathers everyone at the kitchen table like it's a family meeting, not a courtroom. James lays out 3 things: the notice, the lawyer's summary, and Diep's log binder. James points to the lawyer's notes first. "This doesn't take the shop," James says. "It doesn't touch Nye, and it doesn't get to grow into a rumor if we answer it properly." Then James looks at James's father. "We respond
Is it
once,
allowed, Day?
with proof, with your timeline, with our records.
It's a calm day.
No
A calm
side
day.
conversations. No secret fixes." James's father nods, and it's not the nod of a man trying to win. It's the nod of a man accepting a new way
saw
to
the date.
live. James's father slides the written statement forward. Diep adds the dates from the temperature logs that match
And you were there.
deliveries.
I was.
James adds the company
I
records
didn't know how
that
to say I
confirm
was
where he
scared,
was.
so I hid it.
Everything lines up,
hiding
clean and
Always
boring,
turns into control.
which is exactly what safety
I didn't
looks
know how
like.
to say I was scared.
And that's the justice
hid
in
it.
this story.
And hiding
Nobody
always
has to
turns
shout.
into control.
Nobody has to beg.
You knew all this time.
The family doesn't get punished for being decent people.
Yes.
They simply
And now you
show
do
the
too.
truth, and the truth holds.
At nighttime.
That night,
I know it's hard to believe.
Dinner
but you
is
have to
simple.
trust. I do. I do.
rice,
Just,
vegetables,
takes time.
something warm,
I thought
and
if
the
I
house
fixed it
feels
alone,
light again.
nobody would blame
Nakai
you.
sits at the table,
But I made it worse by
telling
not
her
telling you.
long, dramatic story about how me,
I
the
thought if I
dog,
fixed it
checked the
alone,
chicken
nobody
water
would
for
blame you.
poison.
But I made it worse
And
by
James
not telling
laughs
you.
like he forgot he was allowed to. James's mother
you for saying
smiles
it.
into her
Thank
bowl.
you for saying it.
Even James's father lets out a quiet chuckle, then reaches for
Thank
the
you for
pen
saying it.
after dinner and fills in one more line on the log like it's a promise. Later, Diep and James stand in the garden under the cold sky. Diep squeezes James's hand once. "Big shifts are made of small moments," Diep says.
Tell me if it's clear.
James nods, eyes
The terms
soft,
are acceptable.
and that's what stays with
clear.
me. This film isn't loud. It's steady. It reminds you that peace doesn't arrive by accident. You build it with clear words, clean habits, and the courage to ask for help. If you like stories about family healing in real time, this one is worth your evening.